The text arrived at 11:23 p.m. on Wednesday, 3 days after Dad's funeral. Melissa, we need to discuss your trust fund. Family meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Be there. I stared at my phone, exhausted from a week of funeral arrangements and sleepless nights. Dad had been sick for 6 months and his death still felt like a punch to the chest. Another text. Also, we need access to all your accounts. Time you contributed properly to this family. Mom's medical bills won't pay themselves. I sat up, suddenly alert. My trust fund. The one Dad had established when I was 16. The one my family had mocked for years as my allowance and play money. My older sister Melissa had always been the family's financial golden child. Top of her class in finance, senior loan officer at Beacon Trust Bank, never missing an opportunity to remind everyone of her expertise. Meanwhile, I'd gone into what she called boring government work. A career choice that generated eye rolls at every family gathering. Thursday morning, I arrived at Mom's house to find everyone assembled. Melissa in her power suit, Mom looking frail, my brother Jason fidgeting with his phone, and Aunt Carol near the coffee pot. Finally, Melissa said, not looking up from her laptop. Let's make this quick. I have a client meeting at noon. What's this about? I asked. Melissa pulled out a thick folder. Dad's estate is complicated. Medical bills, outstanding debts, the mortgage. We're looking at roughly $340,000 in obligations. Mom's face crumpled. I don't know how we'll manage. That's where we all pitch in, Melissa continued smoothly. Jason's committed his savings. I'm restructuring investments. And you, Emma, need to liquidate your trust fund. I blinked. My trust fund is for emergencies, Melissa interrupted. This is an emergency. Family comes first. How much is in Emma's trust? Aunt Carol asked. Melissa waved dismissively. Not much. Maybe 40 or 50,000. Dad set it up years ago. Some small savings account. Emma's never done anything productive with it. I kept my expression neutral. My trust fund isn't available for withdrawal. Don't be difficult, Melissa snapped. This is family. We need that money. Whatever you have needs to be transferred by end of week. The trust has specific terms, I said carefully. Melissa's smile was condescending. Emma, I'm a senior loan officer at one of the city's top banks. I understand trust. Whatever amateur setup Dad created, I can navigate. Just give me the account information and I'll handle the paperwork. That's not how it works. For God's sake, Jason interjected. We're all making sacrifices. Don't be selfish. Mom reached across the table, trembling. Sweetheart, I know you want to keep your savings, but we're desperate. Just this once, can you help your family? The guilt was carefully applied, precisely calibrated. I recognized the tactic. Melissa had used it for years. I'll review the trust documents, I said finally. But I can't make promises. Melissa's eyes narrowed. Review them with me. Tomorrow. Bring all the paperwork to my office at Beacon Trust. I'll walk you through the withdrawal process. Build up. That evening, I reviewed the trust fund documents Dad had given me on my 25th birthday. His letter, written in careful handwriting, was tucked inside. Emma, this trust is protected at the federal level through special provisions I arranged during my years in government service. The structure is complex, established this way for your protection. Your sister doesn't understand how this works, and I haven't explained it to avoid family conflict. Use this wisely. It's meant to give you security and independence. Buffett. The trust wasn't $40,000. The current balance was $8.7 million. Dad had been a federal banking regulator for 30 years before retirement. He'd used his expertise to establish a trust fund protected by federal banking regulations, the kind typically reserved for whistleblower protections and witness security programs. The trust was held by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, not a commercial institution. Any unauthorized access attempts would trigger automatic federal audits. Melissa had no idea what she was about to walk into. Friday morning, I arrived at Beacon Trust Bank with my folder. Melissa's office was corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture meant to intimidate. Good, you brought the paperwork, Melissa said, gesturing to her desk. Let's see what we're working with. I handed her the trust summary, carefully selected pages showing account structure without revealing the balance or federal protections. Melissa skimmed the documents. This is straightforward. The trust is held at, wait. She looked up sharply. Federal Reserve Bank of New York? Yes. Why would Dad use the Fed? That's unusual for a personal trust. He had connections from his regulatory work. Melissa frowned but continued reading. Regardless of where it's held, we need to initiate a withdrawal. I'll need your account number and authorization codes. I don't think that's advisable. Emma, don't be difficult. I'm trying to help. This is literally what I do for a living. Give me the account number. Against my better judgment, or perhaps because I knew exactly what would happen, I provided the information. Melissa immediately began typing, accessing Beacon Trust's internal systems. I'll initiate a transfer request through our bank's federal interface. Standard procedure for accessing Fed-held accounts. Melissa, you should really. I've got this. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Requesting access, entering withdrawal authorization, and submitting. Her computer screen flashed red. That's odd, Melissa muttered. System kicked back the request. Probably just a verification issue. She tried again. Another red flash, this time with a warning message I could see. Unauthorized access attempt. Federal audit protocol initiated. Melissa's face went pale. That shouldn't happen. I tried to warn you, I said quietly. What did you do? Melissa demanded. Nothing. But you just attempted unauthorized access to a federally protected trust fund. The system automatically triggers an audit when someone tries to withdraw without proper authorization. I'm your sister. You gave me the account information. I gave you information. I didn't authorize a withdrawal. The trust has specific terms that prevent anyone, including me, from making certain transactions without federal oversight review. Melissa's phone rang. She answered, listened for 30 seconds and went even paler. Yes, I understand. Tomorrow at 9. Yes. She hung up slowly. That was my compliance director. The Federal Reserve just flagged an unauthorized access attempt originating from my workstation. I have a meeting with federal banking regulators tomorrow morning. Melissa, you should have listened. Get out, she hissed. Get out of my office. Revelation. The family group chat exploded over the weekend. Melissa, Emma filed some kind of complaint against me. Federal regulators are investigating. Jason, what? Why would she do that? Mom, Emma, what's going on? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I spent Saturday morning on a video call with Margaret Chin, the Federal Reserve compliance officer assigned to the case. Ms. Parker, Margaret said, reviewing her notes, your sister attempted to initiate a withdrawal from your protected trust fund using her credentials as a loan officer at Beacon Trust Bank. This triggered multiple red flags in our system. I didn't authorize any withdrawal, I confirmed. We're aware. The trust structure your father established includes specific safeguards against coercion and unauthorized access. Your sister's attempt constitutes a serious violation of federal banking regulations. What happens now? Margaret's expression was professional but firm. We're conducting a full audit of your sister's transactions at Beacon Trust. Any banking professional who attempts to access protected federal accounts without authorization faces potential license suspension and criminal charges. Criminal charges? Attempted unauthorized access to federal banking systems is a felony. Additionally, if we find evidence she's done this with other clients' accounts, the charges escalate significantly. My stomach dropped. I didn't want. Miss Parker, you didn't do anything wrong. Your sister made a choice to bypass proper procedures. She used her professional credentials to attempt accessing funds she had no legal right to touch. That's on her, not you. Sunday afternoon, Melissa showed up at my apartment, her usual polish completely gone. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans instead of her signature power suit. You need to fix this, she said without preamble. Call them off. I can't call off a federal investigation, Melissa. You started it. That trust fund complaint or whatever. I didn't file a complaint. Your attempted withdrawal triggered automatic security protocols. The system flagged it, not me. Melissa's hands shook. They're auditing every transaction I've processed in the last 3 years. Emma, they're going through everything. Client accounts, loan approvals, internal transfers. Then you have nothing to worry about if everything was legitimate. Her silence was damning. Melissa, what did you do? Nothing. But her voice cracked. Just standard procedures. Some shortcuts here and there. Things everyone does. What kind of shortcuts? She sank onto my couch uninvited. Sometimes clients need help accessing funds quickly. I'd expedite transfers, bypass some approval steps. Nothing major. Did you have authorization? I'm a senior loan officer. That is authorization. I closed my eyes. Melissa, that's exactly what federal regulators look for. Unauthorized access to client accounts, bypassing security protocols. You're lecturing me about banking? You work for the government doing whatever boring paperwork. I'm a federal banking compliance investigator, I interrupted quietly. I work for the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. I investigate exactly these kinds of violations. Melissa froze. What? I've worked in federal banking oversight for 6 years. I investigate financial institutions for regulatory compliance. It's not boring government work, Melissa. It's federal law enforcement. You never said. You never asked. Every family dinner you talked over me. Every holiday you dismissed my career as irrelevant. You assumed because I don't wear designer suits and work in a glass tower that I'm unsuccessful. Melissa's face crumpled. The regulators asked me about you. They wanted to know our relationship. Emma, did you report me? No. But when the automatic audit was triggered, the system flagged that we're related. Standard conflict of interest protocol. You have to help me. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you authorized the withdrawal. I can't lie to federal investigators, Melissa. That's a felony. So you're just going to let them destroy my career? I met her eyes steadily. You tried to steal from a federally protected trust fund. You bypassed security protocols using your professional credentials. You destroyed your own career. Resolution. Thursday morning the news broke. Beacon Trust Bank senior loan officer suspended pending federal investigation, read the headline. The article was brief but damaging. Suspension without pay, potential criminal charges, ongoing federal audit. Mom called immediately. Emma, what have you done? I haven't done anything, Mom. Your sister lost her job. She's facing criminal charges. Over what? Some disagreement about a trust fund. She attempted unauthorized access to a federally protected account. That's a federal crime. It's family money. She was trying to help. It's not family money. It's my money held in a trust Dad specifically protected. Melissa tried to steal it. Don't be dramatic. Mom, she committed a federal banking crime. This isn't about family disagreements. This is about breaking the law. The silence stretched. How much was in that trust fund? Does it matter? Emma, please. Just tell me. $8.7 million. I heard her sharp intake of breath. 8 million. Dad established it over 20 years. He made regular contributions from his salary and investments. He protected it at the federal level specifically to prevent situations like this. And you just kept that secret? I tried to explain at the family meeting. Multiple times. Melissa kept interrupting. She assumed it was nothing, so she treated it like nothing. Mom's voice turned cold. You let your sister destroy her career to prove a point. I let Melissa face the consequences of her illegal actions. There's a difference. She hung up. The family group chat was brutal. Jason, Emma just admitted the trust is worth almost $9 million. She's been sitting on millions while we struggle. Aunt Carol, and she let Melissa lose her job over it. That's cruel. Melissa, she works for the banking regulators. She knew what would happen and set me up. I muted the chat. 2 weeks later, Margaret Chin called with an update. Miss Parker, the investigation revealed your sister has been conducting unauthorized transactions for at least 18 months. 23 separate instances of bypassing security protocols. What happens now? Her banking license has been permanently revoked. She's facing federal charges for wire fraud and unauthorized access. The U.S. Attorney's Office is building a case. Will she go to prison? Possibly. That depends on whether she accepts a plea agreement. But she'll never work in banking again. I thought about Melissa's corner office, her designer suits, her constant need to prove she was more successful than everyone else. All of it built on shortcuts and illegal access. Thank you for the update, I said quietly. 3 months later, I attended a retirement party at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York for one of Dad's former colleagues. The other federal banking regulators greeted me warmly. Your father was brilliant, one elderly regulator told me. He understood banking law better than anyone I knew. That trust structure was a work of art. He protected me, I agreed. Even after death. Mom called last week. Emma, we need to discuss the medical bills. I've sold the house, but it's still not enough. How much do you need? She named a figure. I wrote a check from my personal account, not the trust, which remained untouched. Thank you, she whispered. I don't deserve this after how I treated you. You're my mother. I'll help with legitimate needs. But the trust stays protected. That's non-negotiable. I understand. We haven't spoken since. Jason sends occasional apologetic texts I mostly ignore. Melissa's awaiting trial, facing up to 15 years in federal prison. The trust fund sits in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, growing steadily, protected by the same federal regulations that destroyed my sister's career. Dad's final gift wasn't just the money, it was the fortress he built around it. Every Thursday I think about Melissa's attempted withdrawal. About her absolute certainty that she understood banking better than anyone. About her assumption that my boring government job meant I was powerless. She wanted access to all my accounts. She got access to federal investigators instead. Dad would have appreciated the irony. I certainly do. The pain started as a dull ache in my abdomen in early April. By mid-April it was sharp and constant. By the 3rd week I was in the emergency room at 2 a.m, vomiting from the intensity. You have a ruptured appendix with peritonitis, Dr. James Holland said, reviewing my CT scans. This is a surgical emergency. We need to operate within hours or you're at serious risk of septic shock and death. I was 27, trying to process the word, death, coming from a surgeon's mouth. How long ago did it rupture? Based on scans and symptoms, 36 to 48 hours ago. The infection has spread throughout your abdominal cavity. This is life-threatening. I called my mother. She answered, voice groggy and annoyed. Jessica? Do you know what time it is? Mom, I'm at St. Catherine's Hospital. Ruptured appendix with peritonitis. Emergency surgery in a few hours. I need you here. Long pause. A ruptured appendix? That seems dramatic. Are you sure they have the diagnosis right? Mom, I've had CT scans. The surgeon showed me the images. My appendix ruptured and I have severe infection. This is serious. How did you let it get that bad? You must have ignored symptoms for days. This is exactly like you. You never take care of yourself, then create medical emergencies that could have been prevented. Can you just come to the hospital? Jessica, your father and I are leaving for our Caribbean cruise tomorrow morning. We've had this planned for 6 months. We can't just cancel because you need a minor procedure. Minor procedure? My appendix ruptured. The surgeon said I could die from septic shock. Surgeons always say worst-case scenarios. It's how they justify their fees. You're in a hospital getting treatment. You don't actually need us there. You're an adult. Have the surgery, recover, and we'll see you when we get back in 2 weeks. My father's voice in the background. Tell her we'll bring her back a souvenir. They hung up. I called my younger brother Tyler, finishing his senior year at State University, graduating in 3 weeks. The golden child. Jess? What's up? Tyler, I'm in the hospital. Emergency surgery. Ruptured appendix. Can you come? Oh man, that sucks. When's the surgery? In a few hours. They said it's life-threatening. Yikes. I've got my final capstone presentation at 9 this morning. Worth 40% of my grade. I can't miss it or I won't graduate. Tyler, I could die. I mean, you're not going to die. You're in a hospital. But if I miss this presentation, I don't graduate and Mom and Dad will kill me. Plus graduation is in 3 weeks. You're still coming to that, right? I'm having emergency surgery right now. Right, but that's 3 weeks away. You'll be totally recovered by then. Appendix surgery is like outpatient stuff. Just rest up and make sure you're good for graduation. Mom's planning this huge party. He hung up to get ready for his presentation. I lay there alone and cried. Not from physical pain, but from realizing a Caribbean cruise and graduation party were more important to my family than whether I survived. My best friend Monica arrived 30 minutes later, still in pajamas. She was a charge nurse at another hospital. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. The surgery took 4 hours. Dr. Holland had to perform an open appendectomy, not the minimally invasive procedure, because the infection was so severe. They removed my ruptured appendix, cleaned infected tissue and placed surgical drains. I woke up with Monica holding my hand and Dr. Holland beside my bed. Jessica, you're stable, but that was touch and go. The infection was more extensive than we thought. You'll be hospitalized at least a week on 4 antibiotics. This was very serious. If you'd waited 12 more hours, we'd be having a very different conversation, if at all. My family didn't come. Parents are on a cruise. Brother had a presentation. Dr. Holland's jaw tightened. I'm sorry. What my family didn't know was what I did for a living. I was Director of Human Resources and Employee Relations for Metropolitan Hospital Network, the largest hospital system in our state. 12 hospitals, 40 clinics, 23,000 employees. Every employment contract, every hiring decision, every termination, every staff complaint came through my office. My mother worked as a medical records clerk at St. Catherine's Hospital, this very hospital. 8 years there. My father worked in facilities management at Mercy General, another network hospital. 10 years there. Both were employees in the hospital system I oversaw. I spent 7 days in the hospital. The infection was stubborn, requiring multiple antibiotic rounds. The drain stayed in 5 days. I ran fevers spiking to 103 degrees. Dr. Holland visited twice daily, clearly concerned about my recovery and lack of family support. Monica came every day after her shifts. My HR colleagues sent flowers and care packages. The network CEO Margaret Chin called personally to check on me. My parents sent one text from their cruise. Hope you're feeling better. The beaches here are beautiful. Beach with umbrella. Tyler sent a photo celebrating after his presentation. Nailed it. Graduation, here I come. Graduation cap. I was discharged on day 8 with a PICC line for home 4 antibiotics, strict wound care instructions, and orders not to return to work for 3 more weeks. Monica stayed the first 2 nights to help with medications and basic tasks. My parents returned on day 15. They didn't visit. They called once. We're back. It was amazing. We brought you a shell necklace. We'll drop it off sometime. How are you feeling? I almost died, Mom. I was in the hospital 8 days with severe infection. Well, you're out now, so clearly you're fine. You always exaggerate how sick you are. Remember the flu in high school? This is the same. You had minor surgery and you're making it into a dramatic production. Minor surgery? They cut me open and removed infected tissue from my entire abdominal cavity. Surgery is surgery. Plenty of people have appendix surgery and go back to work in days. You're milking this for attention because you were upset we went on our cruise. We're not going to feel guilty about a vacation we'd planned for months just because you have bad timing with health issues. Bad timing. Yes. If you'd gone to the doctor earlier like a responsible adult, this could have been a simple laparoscopic outpatient procedure. But you waited until it became an emergency, then expected us to cancel our expensive cruise. That's not fair. I see. Anyway, we need to focus on Tyler's graduation. 10 days away, huge party planned. You're still coming, right? We told everyone you'd be there. Tyler's your only brother. This is a big milestone. I'll think about it. Don't be like that. This isn't about you. This is Tyler's day. You need to be there. We're your family. I hung up and thought about that word, family. 2 days later, back at work part-time from home, I reviewed routine employee files. 2 names appeared. Patricia Morrison, medical records clerk at St. Catherine's. David Morrison, facilities manager at Mercy General. My parents. Every employee underwent annual performance reviews and contract renewals. As HR director, I didn't personally conduct every review, but I reviewed all documentation and had authority to flag any employee for additional scrutiny. My parents' files showed adequate performance. Nothing exceptional, no major issues. Standard raises each year, no formal complaints. But the employment handbook every employee signed included a code of conduct clause. Employees were expected to maintain personal behavior consistent with the compassionate, patient-centered values of the organization, both professionally and personally. I called our chief legal counsel, Robert Brennan. Robert, I need to discuss a code of conduct question regarding my parents. I want to handle this correctly and ethically. Go ahead. Both my parents work for the network. 3 weeks ago, I had emergency surgery for ruptured appendix with peritonitis at St. Catherine's. My parents refused to come because they had a cruise scheduled. They called my life-threatening surgery a minor procedure that could wait and blamed me for bad timing. Robert was quiet. Your parents are medical support staff, and they dismissed a ruptured appendix as minor? Yes. They said I was being dramatic. They went on their cruise and didn't visit once during my 8-day hospitalization or after discharge. Jesus, Jessica. I'm sorry. Does their behavior constitute a code of conduct violation regarding compassionate, patient-centered values? That's complicated because it involves your personal relationship. Let me reframe. If any employee, particularly in patient care support, publicly demonstrated this level of callousness toward a family member's life-threatening medical emergency, and that became known within the hospital community, would it raise questions about whether they embody our values? When you put it that way, yes. Hospital culture is built on empathy and compassion. If staff demonstrate fundamental lack of those qualities personally, especially regarding medical emergencies, it raises valid concerns about organizational fit. So I could flag their files for review? You could. But you must recuse yourself from final decisions. You can flag the concern and provide information, but another HR director makes the final call. Understood. I flagged both files with detailed documentation. Text messages dismissing my surgery as minor and optional, phone records showing 1 call in 8 days, witness statements from Monica and Dr. Holland about my condition and prognosis, summary of their continued dismissal of my medical emergency. I attached a memo. Employee behavior raises concerns regarding alignment with organizational values of compassion and patient-centered care. Recommend review by senior HR leadership. I forwarded both files to Senior Vice President Dorothy Palmer, 30 years with the network, fair but uncompromising about standards. Dorothy called 2 hours later. Jessica, I've reviewed the files. I'm not making this decision because you're involved. I'm making it because this behavior is genuinely incompatible with our mission. I understand. A ruptured appendix is a medical emergency. Peritonitis is life-threatening. Anyone working in a hospital should understand that. Your parents dismissing it as minor and optional demonstrates either profound medical ignorance or willful disregard for suffering. Either way, these aren't people I want representing our hospital system. What are you recommending? Contract non-renewal for both, effective at current contract period end. 60 days to find other employment. They're ineligible for rehire in any network capacity. Not termination for cause, so full benefits through contract end, but we're not keeping them. Dorothy, I need you to be sure. These are my parents. I don't want anyone thinking I'm being vindictive. Jessica, if these were any 2 employees who behaved this way toward a family member's life-threatening emergency, I'd make the same decision. Hospitals need employees who understand compassion, who value human life, who recognize medical emergencies. Your parents failed that basic test. The non-renewal notices were issued Friday, May 12th, 10 days before Tyler's graduation. My phone exploded. 34 missed calls from my mother. 18 from my father. 47 texts from confused to furious. My mother's voicemail. Jessica Lynn Morrison, what the hell did you do? We both got non-renewal notices. They're letting us go. After 8 years, after 10 years. And we know it was you. How could you destroy your own parents' careers because you're petty and vindictive? We're losing our health insurance, our income, everything. Right before Tyler's graduation. You've ruined everything. My father's message, you're dead to us. You're not our daughter anymore. Don't come to graduation. Don't ever contact this family again. Tyler texted, seriously? You got mom and dad fired right before my graduation? What the fuck is wrong with you? I didn't respond. Dorothy called next morning. Your parents filed a complaint alleging you abused your position for personal retaliation. What happens now? Standard investigation. Robert Brennan is handling it personally. The investigation took 3 days. Robert interviewed Dorothy, reviewed all documentation, spoke with Dr. Holland about my medical condition, interviewed Monica, and pulled security footage showing my parents never visited during my 8-day stay despite working in the same network. He called Tuesday. The investigation is complete. The non-renewal decision stands. Your parents' complaint is dismissed. On what grounds? Their behavior genuinely demonstrated lack of basic compassion and medical understanding incompatible with hospital employment. The decision would have been the same regardless of your involvement. Several people we interviewed expressed shock that your parents could work in healthcare and show such callous disregard for a life-threatening emergency. Thank you. One more thing. Your parents have been telling people, including other employees, that you got them fired out of spite. That's creating workplace disruption and damaging your professional reputation. Dorothy issued a cease and desist notification that further defamatory statements will result in forfeiture of remaining benefits and potential legal action. My parents stopped calling. I didn't attend Tyler's graduation ceremony or party. I was still recovering, still on antibiotics, barely able to stand for extended periods. But word got back through Monica. My parents spent the party telling everyone I'd vindicatively destroyed their careers, because they'd taken a vacation. Until a physician who worked at Mercy General asked about the vacation. My mother, emboldened by wine, told the whole story. The midnight call about stomach pain. How they couldn't cancel their expensive cruise for a minor procedure. How I'd been overdramatic about simple appendix surgery. The physician, Dr. Anthony Chin, went still. A ruptured appendix with peritonitis? That's what your daughter had. She made it sound worse. A ruptured appendix with peritonitis is a surgical emergency with significant mortality risk. Did you know she was hospitalized 8 days? Did you know she had severe septic complications? She exaggerates everything. Dr. Chin said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Your daughter almost died from septic shock and you went on a cruise. You work in a hospital and you called a life-threatening surgical emergency minor. Do you understand how profoundly wrong that is? Now you're surprised the hospital system didn't want employees who demonstrate that level of medical ignorance and lack of compassion? You're not victims. You're exactly the kind of people who shouldn't be working in healthcare. He left. So did several other medical professionals. Tyler's celebration dissolved into chaos. Tyler blamed me for ruining his party, even though I wasn't there. I blocked his number after he called me a vindictive bitch. My parents' 60-day contract period ended in July. They left Metropolitan Hospital Network. My mother found medical billing work at a private practice. My father got commercial building maintenance work, not healthcare related. Word spreads in medical communities. Those are the people who went on a cruise while their daughter had emergency surgery, became a story that made rounds. Their reputations were permanently damaged by their own actions. I recovered fully by August. The scars faded. I returned to work full-time. Dorothy called me in one day. Since your parents' non-renewal, we've received 3 reports from their former colleagues who witnessed similar dismissive behavior toward patients and family members. Nothing formal but a pattern of callousness that made people uncomfortable. We made the right decision. Thank you for telling me. You did nothing wrong. You flagged a legitimate concern, recused yourself, and let the process work properly. That takes integrity. I ran into Dr. Holland 6 months later. Jessica, you look wonderful. Fully recovered. Fully recovered. Thank you for saving my life. I'm sorry your family wasn't there. I'm not. I learned who my real family is. Monica, my colleagues, people like you who actually cared whether I lived or died. He smiled. For what it's worth, I heard about your parents' employment. The hospital made the right choice. Compassion isn't optional in healthcare. It's fundamental. I'm 28 now, healthy, thriving, completely estranged from my parents and brother. They send nothing. I've heard through distant relatives they blame me for ruining their lives. But I didn't ruin their lives. I survived despite their neglect, and I ensured they couldn't continue working where compassion and patient-centered care were core values. They called my emergency surgery optional. They called my life-threatening condition minor. They chose a Caribbean cruise over their daughter's survival. The hospital chose not to employ people who demonstrate that level of callousness. That wasn't vindictive. That was accountability. My appendix scar has faded. My relationship with my biological family is gone. And I'm okay with both. Because some procedures aren't optional. Some infections spread. Some families are toxic. And some decisions, no matter how difficult, are absolutely right. The sound of the credit card breaking echoed across the white tablecloth. Sharp final. Like bones snapping. The waiter froze mid-pour, Cabernet trembling in the bottleneck. Other diners turned. Mom's smile was triumphant, the kind of expression that comes from believing you've won something important. That's what happens when you embarrass this family, she said, dropping the pieces onto my bread plate. The metal chip glinted under the pendant lighting. Running around telling people you're some kind of business owner. It's pathetic. Dad cut into his steak. The knife scraped porcelain. Your mother's right. Time to get serious. Real job. Real life. Stop this entrepreneur fantasy. My sister Sarah smirked from across the table. I told you she'd never make it. 3 years of building her brand. What a waste. The restaurant smelled like truffle oil and old money. Rue Bernardine. Mom's favorite. She came here every week, sometimes twice. Posted the photos on Instagram with captions about earned luxury and successful lifestyle. The irony sat heavy in my chest, dense as the bread I wasn't eating. I'd known this dinner was coming. Had felt it building for weeks. The comments getting sharper. The dismissals more frequent. Mom had started introducing me to her friends as between opportunities. Dad had stopped asking about my business entirely, as if ignoring it would make it disappear. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing too. Had spent the last 6 months building what I called the ghost ledger. A comprehensive accounting of everything they'd taken from me. Not just money. Everything. I unlocked my phone. Not to argue. Not to defend. Just to open the Chase Business Banking app. My thumb moved across the glass screen, smooth and deliberate. Recurring transfers. Monthly scheduled payments. There it was, $4,200 to Susan Morrison, first of every month, 3 years running. I tapped the transfer. Selected it. Read the total at the bottom. $151,200 sent since March 2021. Then I pressed cancel. Deleted the recurring transaction. Confirmed the deletion. The app refreshed. Transfer canceled. No reversals. No warnings. Just gone. Are you even listening? Mom's voice had an edge now, the one that meant she expected groveling. I heard you, I said, setting my phone face down beside my water glass. You're cutting me off. That's right. She lifted her wine, satisfied. Maybe now you'll take life seriously. Your father has connections at his firm. Paralegal position. $45,000 to start. You can move back home, save money, stop pretending you're something you're not. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. It's actually a great opportunity, Emma. Benefits, stability. Real career trajectory. The words landed like they always did. Designed to diminish, to reduce, to remind me of my place in the family hierarchy. Sarah had always been the golden child. MBA from Wharton. Marketing director at a Fortune 500 company. She'd moved back home last year, temporarily, to save for a down payment. What she'd actually been doing was paying Mom and Dad $1,400 monthly rent while I covered most of their actual expenses. When's your mortgage due? I asked. The question landed wrong. I watched Mom's brain try to process the non sequitur, saw the micro-expression of confusion before she smoothed it into annoyance. Excuse me. Your mortgage. The one on the house in Scarsdale. 4-bedroom colonial. When's it due? Dad's knife stopped moving. What kind of question? January 15th, I said. 6 days from now. $3,800 monthly payment. You've never missed one in 3 years. Mom's hand tightened on her wine stem. The glass made a small sound, crystal protesting pressure. How do you know? Because I pay it. Silence. The kind that swallow sound makes the air thick. At the next table, a woman laughed at something her companion said. The sound felt like it was coming from another world. Sarah leaned forward. What are you talking about? I picked up my phone again. Opened my email. Found the folder labeled Family Financial Support Morrison Household. Turned the screen toward them. The subject lines scrolled past. Mortgage payment confirmation. Utility payment processed. HOA fee cleared. Car insurance premium paid. Property tax, escrow deposited. 3 years, I said. Since I started Morrison Digital Consulting. First year revenue, $180,000. Second year, $285,000. Last year, $340,000. I took $4,200 monthly from my business account. Sent it directly to Mom's personal checking. Every first of the month. You called it help from Dad's investments. Remember? Mom's face had gone pale, the foundation suddenly visible against her neck. That's not, you didn't. I did. I scrolled through the spreadsheet I'd pulled up. March 2021 through January 2025. 46 months. Mortgage, utilities, property tax, both car payments, country club dues. Even Dad's golf membership at Winged Foot. The numbers glowed on the screen. Each line item a separate wound. Mortgage, $3,800. Utilities, gas, electric, water, internet $420. Property tax, monthly escrow $890. Mom's Lexus ES 350, $640. Dad's BMW 540i, $710. Scarsdale Country Club, $850. Winged Foot Golf, $290. Home insurance, $180. Landscaping service, $320. Total monthly, $8,100. I'd covered $4,200. They'd covered the remaining $3,900 from Dad's consulting retainer and Sarah's rent payments. Dad's jaw worked. His hands had gone flat on the table, palms down. Why would you do that? Because you told me you were struggling. 3 years ago. March 2021. You came to my studio apartment in Queens. Sat on my futon. Said the retirement accounts took a hit during COVID. Said you needed help with the mortgage for just a few months until things stabilized. The memory was specific, etched in detail. Dad had looked smaller that day, older. He'd worn his reading glasses on top of his head, a tell that he was stressed. Mom had called twice during the conversation, her voice anxious in the background. They'd said the words that made me start the transfers the next week. We might lose the house. I'd believed him. Stupid, soft 25-year-old me had believed him. Had taken money from my barely profitable first-year business and sent it to them. Had kept sending it even when my own rent checks bounced. Even when I had to choose between health insurance and their mortgage. Things did stabilize, Mom said quickly. Her wine glass was shaking slightly. We were going to tell you. Tell me what? That you've been taking my money for 3 years while calling my business a fantasy? That every Sunday dinner where you told me to get a real job, you were sitting in a house I was paying for? That every time you posted Instagram photos from the country club, I just transferred money to cover the membership dues. My voice had stayed level. That was the thing I was proudest of. 3 years ago I would have cried. Would have apologized. Would have made it smaller to make them comfortable. Not anymore. Sarah's face had shifted. She was doing math, I could see it. Her accounting degree was finally useful. I've been paying rent, she said slowly. You told me it was going toward the mortgage. That I was helping with expenses. It was helping with expenses, Dad said. Just not the mortgage. No. I pulled up another screen. Bank statements from their joint savings account. It went into their vacation fund. The Sarah Morrison monthly rent payment. Deposited directly into savings. Last major withdrawal, December 18, 2024. Amount, $8,400. For the Turks and Caicos trip you're taking next month. The all-inclusive resort. 5-star. Sarah's mouth opened, closed. Her face had gone red, 2 spots of color high on her cheeks. You used my rent money for vacation while I paid for the house you live in. I set the phone down. The screen went dark. Yeah. The waiter appeared, nervous. He'd been hovering near our table, probably sensing the tension. Is everything all right with your meals? Fine, Mom said, her voice brittle as old paper. We're fine. We weren't fine. The table felt like a shipwreck and we were all drowning in different ways. I'd spent 6 months building the ghost ledger I'd mentioned. Started it in July when I'd finally run the numbers and understood the truth. They didn't need my help. They wanted my help. Needed me to stay small so they could stay comfortable. There's a difference. The ledger had categories beyond money. I pulled it up now, showed them the spreadsheet. Professional sabotage. January 2023. Client meeting with Harris Corporation, potential $45,000 annual contract. Dad called with emergency, needed help moving furniture. I rescheduled meeting. Harris Corp signed with competitor 2 days later. Cost, $45,000 revenue plus relationship with industry contact. November 2023. Mom told her book club I was between opportunities when asked about my business. 3 women there were VP level at companies I'd been trying to reach. Never returned my emails after that. Cost, 3 potential clients, industry reputation. Confidence tax. Every Sunday dinner 2021 to 2024. Average 3.5 dismissive comments per dinner. 156 dinners attended. 546 times told business was cute hobby, not sustainable, fantasy. Cost, 2 years of therapy to rebuild self-esteem, $8,400 in copays. Time theft. Holiday obligations. 18 major holidays spent at family events instead of industry networking opportunities. Each holiday equals average 8 hours. Total, 144 hours. Missed networking events. 23 events skipped. 4 family obligations. Cost, relationships never built, opportunities never seized, time never recoverable. Financial sacrifice documentation. June 2022. Chose their mortgage over my health insurance premium. Uninsured for 4 months. Developed kidney infection. Emergency room bill. $4,200. Exactly 1 month's transfer to them. August 2023. Chose their property tax over my business liability insurance. 1 month uninsured. Lost potential corporate client who required proof of coverage. December 2023. Chose their car payments over my own emergency fund. When laptop died, had to use credit card at 22% APR. Still paying it off. Mom was reading over my shoulder. I could feel her leaning in. You kept track of all this? I'm a business consultant. I track everything. I closed the spreadsheet. The ghost ledger isn't about revenge. It's about understanding cost. You taught me that actions have consequences. I'm just applying the lesson. Dad's face had gone from pale to red. This is manipulative. Throwing our help back in our faces. Your help. The laugh came out sharp. You took $151,200 from me over 3 years. That's not help. That's theft with good branding. We're family, Mom said. Her voice had changed, had the quality of someone seeing an edge approaching. Family helps each other. Then why didn't you help me? The question sat there, simple and unanswerable. When I told you I was struggling, you told me to get a real job. When I asked for advice, you told me to give up. When I showed you my first $100,000 year, you said it wasn't sustainable. The only thing you ever wanted from me was money. Sarah was crying now quietly. Emma, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they were. I know. I looked at her. You're not the problem. They are. You can't just stop, Mom said. Her hands were shaking. The wine glass trembled, red liquid moving like blood. The mortgage, we have other expenses we need. What I needed. The words came out colder than I'd intended. I needed parents who believed in me. I needed family who supported my dreams instead of dismissing them. I needed people who loved me for who I am, not what I could give them. The restaurant had gone quiet around us, or maybe it was just that I'd stopped hearing anything else. The world had shrunk to this table, this moment, this ending. I sent the cancellation confirmation this morning, I said. Before I came to dinner. All of it. Mortgage transfer, utilities, property tax, insurance, everything. It's done. The automated payments will fail on their scheduled dates. You'll receive insufficient funds notices from your bank. Mom's hands were shaking harder now. You can't, we'll lose. What I lost. I stood, picked up my bag. The leather strap felt solid against my shoulder, grounding. My savings. My emergency fund. The down payment I should have for my own place. 3 years of financial security. I lost that so you could keep your house and your cars and your image. You're punishing us, Dad said. His voice had gone hard, defensive. Over what? Pride? Because we hurt your feelings. Over the truth. I looked at him directly. I'm not punishing you. I'm just not saving you anymore. You're adults. Figure it out the way I had to figure it out. Alone. Mom grabbed my wrist. Her grip was tight, desperate, her manicured nails digging into my skin. Please. Just one more month. Let me figure something out. Please, Emma. I looked at her hand on my arm. Looked at her face. Saw the fear there, real and animal. Part of me wanted to fold, to say yes, to be the person who saved them one more time. But I'd learned something in 3 years of building a business from nothing. You can't save someone who doesn't think they need saving. They'd never thought they needed me. They just thought they needed my money. You have 6 days to figure out the mortgage, I said, removing her hand gently. Same timeline you gave me to grow up and get serious. Should be plenty of time for 2 intelligent adults with financial resources. I left cash on the table for my untouched meal. $60 exact change. Not from the card she'd broken. From the business account she'd pretended didn't exist. Sarah followed me outside. The cold January air hit sharp and clarifying. Emma, wait. He was crying, mascara smudged. Can we talk? Really talk? About what? About all of it. About them. About, she stopped. Started again. You said you're signing a lease on a 2-bedroom in Brooklyn next week. Did you mean that? Would you let me move in with you? I studied her face. Saw something I hadn't seen before. Clarity. Understanding. The beginning of separation. Yes, I said. But you pay actual rent. Market rate. And you're out of their house by this weekend. No warning, no discussion. You just leave. Okay. She nodded. Hey. I can do that. And Sarah. I waited until she met my eyes. If you tell them where I live, if you give them my new address, if you become their information source, we're done. Not just roommates. Sisters. Everything. I need to know you understand that. I understand. Her voice was steady. I'm done being their messenger. I'm done with all of it. I gave her my new address. Watched her save it in her phone. Then I blocked Mom's number. Blocked Dad's. Not out of anger. Out of architecture. I was rebuilding my life, and the foundation couldn't include people who'd spent 3 years trying to demolish it. For months later I sat in my apartment. Exposed brick floor-to-ceiling windows, 15-foot ceilings. Rent paid from my account only, $3,200 monthly for a place that was actually mine. Sarah was in the kitchen making coffee. She'd moved in 3 days after the dinner. Brought 2 suitcases and her cat. Left everything else behind. She'd been paying me $1,600 monthly, half the rent, exactly market rate for the neighborhood. We'd started talking, really talking about what it meant to grow up in a family that measured love and utility. My business hit $480,000 in Q1. Landed 3 major contracts I'd been pursuing for months. Hired 2 full-time employees and a part-time financial analyst who specialized in helping entrepreneurs untangle family money dynamics. Turns out I wasn't the only one. I'd heard through Sarah that Mom and Dad had refinanced the house. Took a cash-out refinance to cover 6 months of expenses while they restructured. New mortgage, $5,100 monthly, up from $3,800. Had to sell both cars, bought used replacements. Cancelled the country club membership. Dad was doing actual consulting work now. Real projects, real deliverables, not just collecting retainer checks for his name on letterhead. They tried calling from different numbers. Sent letters to my old address that got forwarded. Showed up at my old office building before they realized I'd moved to a co-working space. Sarah said they asked about me every day at first, then every week, then stopped asking. I felt nothing about it. Not satisfaction. Not guilt. Just the quiet recognition that they were adults who'd made choices, and now they were living with the consequences of those choices. My therapist said that was healthy. Said the ghost ledger exercise had been transformative, that naming the emotional cost had helped me process them faster than years of traditional therapy might have. She'd asked if I wanted to pursue reconciliation eventually. Maybe, I'd said. If they ever actually apologize. If they ever acknowledge what they did. If they ever see me as something other than an ATM with a pulse. She'd nodded. And if they don't? Then I already have my family. I'd thought of Sarah, of the employees who'd become friends, of the business community I'd built brick by brick. Blood is just one definition. I'm working with better ones now. The mechanical click of my laptop echoed in the quiet apartment. Not a reminder of what I'd lost. A reminder of what I'd built. They tried to cut me off. Instead they'd cut themselves out. The balance was zero. The debt was paid. And for the first time in 3 years I was completely, entirely, finally free.